Looking forward with Ryan Hughes.
Ryan Hughes.
It's up to Rhino to answer this challenge.
Your leader, Ryan Hughes, 105. Hughes on the inside. Hughes on the inside, though, trying to get a run at
Ryan
it.
Hughes has got a problem with the bike. He's trying to push it to the line.
And we're back. Ryan Hughes, Big 49 Radio.
That we are.
866-492-4449 is the number to call in if you're ever interested. But we're back on the track, at least.
We are back on the track, and a lot has happened since we last spoke of. Sadly, in the motorcycle community, we lost a legend, one Mr. Malcolm Smith.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer that, anybody leaves this world, and anybody, especially with somebody with the credentials as, Malcolm Smith, and what he's done in the sport. I mean, dude, he's transformed it. He's supported it. He's competed in it. You know what I mean? So he's been a big name, big legend in the sport. But this is life, and we all get to an age where we don't go any farther, and that's just where he hit the finish line, man. He hit the finish line. And so props to him for what he's done in his life in the sport, and props to him for being able to live a long, successful, healthy life. And make it through motocross. So that's it is what it is, I guess.
I have to say, my thoughts on Malcolm are he's done an amazing thing for the community of Baja. Mm-hmm. He was a very big person down in Baja, did a lot for the local residents of Baja. He's been great for especially outdoor, enduro riding and outdoor racing, and his involvement with the Baja 500 and the Baja 1000. He's
at a motorcycle shop. He started a motorcycle, a gear company.
Yeah.
So he's done a lot. He really has.
He is just, he's one of those people we have to look at and go, wow, he really has moved the sport and moved everything that we've done in a very positive direction. So he will be missed in that level.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that if you like a Husqvarna, you wouldn't have known about Husqvarna if it wasn't in the United States, if it wasn't for Malcolm Smith.
That is true.
So in other news, we can also talk about WSX, World Supercross.
Yeah, it just finished. I didn't know
finished.
I was blown away that they had to race during the week.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's done. I guess Eli won it, and that's of course. And I haven't watched the race, so I don't know what transpired that way. But it looked pretty cool in Abu Dhabi. And
1, 2, and 3 were interesting on the podium on that because number 1, obviously, you had Eli.
Yeah.
Number 2, you had Ken Roczen. Okay, makes a little sense. Joey Savacci.
Yeah, he's been on it, huh?
The
last Australian Supercross too. I mean, he beat those guys.
Yeah,
he beat Jet Lawrence. Dude, he's riding. He's ripping. So yeah, once he got onto that Honda, it just seems like things really took off. And maybe it's a little bit of that not having as much pressure as the American Supercrosses were. Because there's been people that have always, when they went to Europe or went to overseas and did Supercrosses, they did really good. Like Larry Ward was one of those guys that just dominated over there because there wasn't as much pressure maybe, and this and that. But then you come to the States and kind of struggles a little bit more. So I think Savacci maybe not having that big pressure, being able to race these smaller events and stuff has gave him a little bit of a spark. But yeah, man, he's riding really, really good, and Cooper Webb was riding really well also.
Coop did very well, but he got in a wreck.
Yeah, I got a little crash, but I think he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but he was riding really well. Of course, Jet riding well, and Eli's riding well. But again, it's getting close to the season, but it's still not the season, and so you can't really go off that. Oh, this person's riding this good, and that person's riding that good at this point right now because we're still not at the season, and. In these races, they mean something, but they don't mean anything.
I was going to say, what are your thoughts on what you've seen in World Supercross versus what you think will happen in Supercross here?
Well, again, there's only a few guys in World Supercross, so you can't say that these guys are dominating and these guys are going to be this because there's not 15 guys, there's only 3, right? So you get a bad start, you get a 5th place start. Supercross, you get a bad start, you get a 12th place start because there's that many better riders. So Will these guys be the top of the class? Of course. Eli's going to be there. Jet's going to be there. Hunter will be there. Cooper will be there. All these guys will be there. Is anybody going to dominate? I don't think anybody's going to dominate. The only person that might throw off a couple wins in a row would be Jet, just because he can. And but yeah, I just think it's going to be another very, very close year. Another very close, a lot of good racing. And but it's just good to see everybody on top of their game, everybody healthy. And seeing everybody kind of go out of the norm to keep that sharpness, to keep that race fitness, to keep that I guess that involvement in the sport by doing these overseas races. And I think it's good. It's good. You don't need to sit down and do all this training and kind of just keep this fitness and this momentum going. And then also the best way to test is by racing.
Yeah.
So you can test a little bit, then you race. Test a little bit, race. Test a little bit, race. Instead of going to Anaheim just testing the whole time to get to Anaheim, like, oh shit, I made the wrong decision. I made the wrong setup. So
one of the things I noticed about, especially the Abu Dhabi track, because I kind of paid attention to it, is it reminded me a lot more of an arena cross track than it did a traditional Supercross track. It was much tighter. The cornering was much tighter. And whereas Supercross, they've gotten into these larger sweeping corners, and it's a little bit faster paced. It seemed that the Abu Dhabi race was really tight.
It seemed like the stadium was big. Looked like the track was kind of big, went out and came about. But yeah, maybe they just condensed it where it's, much more 180s type of things. And, that allows maybe more passing sometimes just because people aren't going as fast in the corners and coming out. Because those high sweeper corners, it's hard to want to be putting your front end into somebody or get up next to somebody when they're ripping around it in third gear. These tighter ones, you come more to a pause, more to a stop, so you can come in and block them a little bit or even bump them, now, because it's slowing down the pace.
What are your feelings on that as far as from a riding perspective and from a rider's perspective? What are your thoughts on a tighter track versus a more open track?
I guess it just depends on the layout, if the layout's cool, a tight track is fun. If the layout isn't good, then yeah, it can be just a one-liner. Okay. Fast track can be the same thing. It can be fast where you can have a lot of good passing areas, or it's just so fast and kind of easy that you're just following the leader. And then also it's what kind of day you having, right? It's what kind of day you having. It doesn't matter. It could be the best track on earth. If you're having a bad day, you're going to feel like shit. So, for me, it wasn't really an issue. I like the tracks that are probably a little bit faster. That work for me. Okay. Faster tracks, rougher tracks, type of things. That would always work for me. But we did good in all of them.
Okay.
So,
well, in other news, you're also back from your Italy trip, and you went out and did some riding yourself. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we went out to Italy. And so myself, it was an adventure. So myself and Janelle, they gave us a free trip there, Okay. And so they brought Brock Glover, Chuck's son, Mickey Diamond, and Doug Dubach.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was cool. I know all the guys. So we went there. On the plane, we get there, and I fall asleep a little bit, and I wake up, and I'm like, did you just get sick? And Janelle's holding this bag. She's like, yeah. She just got food poisoning on the plane and puked.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit. So she gets up and she does her thing and then comes back and sits there. Then the cart comes through with the lady with the drinks.
Yep.
And she's like, okay, I want this in a hot water. And so Janelle was doing these things with her hands. And so the lady put the hot water on the tray. The tray's plastic, the hot water cup's plastic, and the tray had a tilt to it, and it slid down. And right when it's sliding down, I went to grab it. I caught it a little bit, but she was wearing a dress, spilt on her leg. Dude, third degree burns. I mean,
wow.
Fucking blisters. Like gnarly stuff. And so that was the start of the trip with that. And then she had to run to another plane and do all these things. And so she was definitely a trooper there. Brought a bunch of clothes, only could wear a dress the whole time. Just like it was just ruined that way. So then we went out. Then Monday morning, I wake up and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, dude, I just feel like I got ran over by 3 cars. Like even my skin hurt. Okay. And so I got food poisoning, and from the plane, and so I was out for a day.
What did you eat on the plane? What was
I had just some chickens, Marcella or something, Okay. And normally I don't eat plane food, but just I was hungry, so whatever. And but then so I was out for a day. I didn't see the sun for a day. Like laid in bed for a day, and that's never happened ever in my life. Then I got better, and a couple days later, then we had practice Friday, and I was getting a little bit better. And I was riding a 25 Honda 450. So I haven't ridden a 450 in a long time, and again, I haven't ridden that much lately. So that was cool to ride, and the track was super fun. Then Sunday we had the race, and it was two races, and myself, James Dobb, and Alessandro Puzar.
Okay.
You know, so Puzar was there. So Puzar rides all the time, races all the time, this and that. So he was leading. I started about 6, 7, and I started in the very last gate, as far as I could get, because I'm like, okay, at least there's only people to my right, you know, and not to my left, because you know the night before. I mean, we can go into this later, but anyway, so I started there, went in the first turn, came out about 6, 7, passed up to second, got up to Dobby, last lap. Or no, got up to him, it was on him, and then I fell down. Went back to about 6, 7, caught back up, caught up to Dobby again. Passed him on the last lap, but my arms were so pumped up I couldn't make the turn. I just had to go out and hit the outside.
Yep.
And he squared underneath me, and we came in, and then we were neck and neck, and then going down the last straightaway, I look over, and Puzar's over there giving his mechanics high fives. And we're like, whoa, we went right by him. He didn't know we were so close. So Dobby got first, I was second, and Puzar was third.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then the second moto, I started the same place, went in the first turn, you know, then you get the best start, and someone stood up and hit me, bam, and stood me up. And so I started probably like 20th.
Oh.
And so by the third lap, I think in the third lap, I was probably in second.
Okay.
You know, third laps, I went through everybody really quick, past Dobby. I started catching Puzar a little bit, but I just couldn't do anything. My arms, you know, it's just like my arms were dead because I haven't ridden ever.
Yeah.
So it's not so much pumped up. They were just kind of weak. And so it's just like I felt like I was just bear hugging this bike the whole time, you know, just trying to survive the damn thing. But so I went 2-2, you know, and we all tied. Puzar went 3-1, I went 2-2, and Dobby went 1-3.
Okay.
You know, so it was cool, but everybody had a good time. Of course, the Italian people, the Italian, you know, fans, mechanics, friends, just they're amazing, right?
Yep.
And the thing. So, but, you know, it was definitely a transition because I haven't competed in a while. So, you know, with all this shit going on, I'm like, fuck, man, is this like a sign that I shouldn't be doing this? So the nights before practicing in the race were pretty, I don't know, it was something I've never experienced before because my mind clicked in and started really doubting what I was doing, really putting a lot of fear in me.
Really?
You know, just because of my injuries and stuff like that. And I'm like, God, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? You know what I mean? What if this, you know, and all these things started going out. I'm like, man, I can't do this. I'm just going to tell everybody I can't do this tomorrow. You know, and it just kind of scared, you know, the mind kind of made this story up and scared me. Right. Oh. So then Friday rolls around and I just, you know, just do my thing, get there, put the gear on, get the bike, go out there, cruise around. And all of a sudden it just, those thoughts never came out. And then Saturday night, the same thing, just in bed, just sleep. Fuck, okay. What if I get a start and I just ride with everybody, you know, and just cool?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and I'm going to tell these guys I just can't do it. I can't do it. You know, like, what am I doing on the start? So I don't know, just like the way the mind works.
You're freaking yourself
really
out.
Freaking you out. Well, just because I haven't competed in a while and I haven't ridden in a while. And I'm not really kind of supposed to. I should, you know? And so that kind of did that. Then Sunday rolled around and everything just went easy.
Perfect.
You know, no worries, this and that. I just did my gig. You fall into that role very easily. You fall into that guy.
Okay.
You know, and so when I was at the track, I kind of just fall into that guy. And but yeah, great event. And I'll go back again next year for both events, the Majora one and that Transburgo. And but yeah, it was good.
How gnarly was the track?
The track was easy. I mean, it was really rocky.
Okay.
You know, kind of rocky in that, but no big jumps or anything like that. You know, it's all a bunch of vets and stuff. So the track was sketchy, but easy. If that makes sense. Like sketchy because a lot of rocks and some slippery parts, but easy by not any jumps really. And track didn't get really that rough. Okay. So, but it was fun. It was a fun event.
Good.
Good time.
Good. Now, what are your thoughts on the 2025 Honda 450?
I thought the bike was great. I mean, we didn't do anything. The only thing I did was, I think, soften the front up a little bit and the rear just because the track got choppy. And I think I lowered down the back a little bit. And that was it. That was it. The bike was fast. The suspension worked good, you know, and The bars, the levers, everything was perfect.
It was all stock.
I didn't have to change anything,
Okay.
So I was I raised the back brake lever. That's it. But no, the bike was good. I think that the 25 Honda, the Honda's really made a big jump with their progression with their motorcycles.
Okay.
And I feel like they probably have the best bike out there right now. I would say.
All right.
I would say. I mean, just going off of what Jet and Hunter are doing, and just I haven't ridden the bikes, but just riding that 25, it handled really well. Handled really well.
Good.
Yeah. So.
Good. So you liked it. You felt comfortable on it.
Yeah. No, I felt good. I had fun riding, and and things came back very quickly. Like the first 3 laps was just back to myself, just making passes so quick. But then you get to a point where your body just can't do it anymore because you're not trained to do it. I haven't trained to ride for years, so it's like the body will get beat down or kind of worn, kind of tired, and you're not tired. It's just you're just not strong enough almost, because you don't do it. And but other than that, it was good. I had a blast. I came away safe. Happy all that. But the trip home was clean.
Okay.
No problems. Yeah. Yeah.
No burns?
So, no burns. No food poisonings.
No food
nothing
poisoning?
like that.
All right.
No, we're good. We're good. Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, guess what we just did?
First moto?
We just cleared first moto.
Oh, wow. There we
So
go.
when we come back, I want to ask you a couple more questions about your trip to Italy and about that 2025 Honda.
Perfecto.
I have some conditioning questions I wanted to ask
Yep,
you. So
let's do it.
we'll talk about that.
Back again. Ryan Hughes, looking ahead. Big 49 radio.
Sweet. So on last break, we talked about your little adventures in Italy and how crazy that all was. But one of the questions I had, because you talked about your arm pump a lot and your strength, and I was wondering, because I know you do a lot of yoga training, and yoga is like a core strength training. Is that something that was going to help you, or should you have done weight training? What should you have done differently to sustain yourself more throughout that entire race situation there?
Probably just ride.
Okay.
Ride more than once in a year.
Okay.
That usually does it, So the biggest thing is, if I could have rode more, if I rode 3-4 times a week, then not an issue. I would have won the race, no problem. But just not. Again, you can be the fittest guy on earth, but you don't have motocross fitness. You can practice all the time, but you don't have race fitness. So fitness is one side. Then you get to riding the motorcycle is another level of fitness. Then you get to practicing is another level of fitness. Then you get to racing, it's another level of fitness.
Yes.
And then you get to the top, and it's a whole nother level of fitness, almost a mental fitness. So, but people always ask me, hey Ryan, what if I only have time to do one thing in the day? What should I do to be the fittest I can to ride motocross if I'm doing one thing? I say, well, if you look at running asks you to have cardio, and that's it. Really.
Yeah.
Cardio, and you get all 4 extremities moving opposite of each other, which is very good. If you go trail running in the mountains and the hills, well, that's another perspective, another avenue of it, because off balance, slippery conditions, you got to hop, you got to jump, you got to rocks, all these different things. So steep uphills, downhills. So that's going to make you bring a little bit more of coordination, balance, a little bit more, tying the body together because of the unbalanced surface, not like just running on a road. Cycling, strong legs, but cardio. That's it. Weight training, stronger muscles. You do it right, you can get intensity, you can get fitness, you can get cardio, you can get strength and stability and all that. But so when you go to yoga, well, then yoga asks you to be strong, asks you to be stable, coordinated, efficient, have balance, have intensity with your focus, have patience, makes you very flexible, pliable. So there's a lot of things that yoga does that represents riding a motorcycle. So if there's one thing to do, then yoga is probably the one thing to do. Because if you just lift weights, you're just going to be strong. You just ride a bicycle, you're just going to have cardio. But if you can have this balance and this coordination and this focus and this patience, but also be very pliable when you do hit the ground, because there's 2 sides to riding a motorcycle and racing a motorcycle. One is to be fit so you can win, but 2 is to be pliable so when you do hit the ground, you can jump up. And so, yoga would be good. But for me, I just need to ride a motorcycle. I just need to ride a motorcycle. And then again, just riding a 450 on a track that's pretty slippery, and then just being, cautious myself.
Yeah.
You're going to ride a little bit more tight.
So
if that makes sense.
Is this going to make you want to ride more or less?
No, it hasn't changed.
Okay.
It hasn't changed anything. I mean, I had fun riding, but it wasn't like I didn't get off the track and was like, oh man, this is what I got to do again. I've done it. I've done it. And so, riding's fun, but not like it used to be. And like I say, like we talked before, it's just the ordeal of it, of washing the bike, prepping the bike, taking care of the bike, getting dressed, getting undressed, buying the gas, the oil, loading the bike. It's just, there's a big undertaking.
Oh yeah.
To do it nowadays, not all the time. And so I just kind of lost that road, and it's not like there's something that's just knocking on my door to make me want to do it. Then also, the injuries that I've had, definitely puts a cap on it, right? Of not having that want to do it, or that push to do it. And so, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to be anything, because again, if I do start to ride, start to this, well, then here comes this rhino side, and then I want to compete, because again, I have that in me. I'm a competitor, even though my competitive side is hidden. It only needs just little food, and it comes flying back out. So, I'm good.
Okay.
But next year when I go, I'll definitely ride, for a couple weeks beforehand.
Okay.
I'll definitely get more prepared for the event, but doesn't mean I'm going to be doing anything around here.
In other words, you want to win.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean,
you want to win. You want to win.
I mean, the thing is, at night I was scared to death. During the day, just be safe and have fun and this and that. But after the event, I'm like, shit, man, I could have won. And I could beat him. And so, yeah, then that whole side comes back out. But it wasn't like there was something that, like, okay, now I'm going to start riding, I'm going to start training, I'm going to start this. Nah, none of that came out.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good that way,
All right. Just checking, because it sounds like you actually had a good time on the track.
Yeah, the track was fun. Again, and the people, I get to ride against all the guys I used to race against, some of them, and then again the fans, and riding a really good bike.
Yeah.
And then also just having that not pressure type of thing. You can just ride. How you do is how you do.
Yeah.
And but it was good. I look forward to going back. I'll probably ride again here shortly. My son will come back out for Christmas. He's going to bring his bike. So then we're going to go up to up Palomar.
Okay.
Palomar, we're going to go, and some trails in the back of my house, all these different things. So we'll do some stuff that way. But that's the only plans I have for riding right now.
Okay. What kind of bike does your son have?
What does he have? He has a Husky.
Okay.
He has a Husky 250 or something, a two-stroke.
Okay.
Yeah. So he just does a lot of trail riding and fun stuff like that. So he just has kind of a bike that he can putt around on.
Now, how do you feel about the two-stroke versus the four-stroke?
I mean, it's
two different styles of riding.
Two different styles of riding, two different sounds, two different feelings, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And not even really styles. It's not a style on the motorcycle, it's just approach, like we talked before.
Yeah.
Style. The position on the motorcycle is position on the motorcycle. It's just approach. Two-stroke, you're going to ride much more aggressive. Four-stroke, you're going to be a lot more patient. Two-strokes, the technology isn't as good nowadays. The four-strokes are somewhat superior, so things are going to handle better, work better, this and that. But I guess it just depends on what you like to ride and the sound you want to hear, and the smell of the gas you want to smell.
Okay.
And but yeah, you're riding a motorcycle, man. You're riding a motorcycle, so that's all that really matters.
At this stage in life, when you're talking about vet RME type riding, would you be better with a two-stroke or a four-stroke?
I mean, for me, I would definitely do four-stroke.
Okay.
And again, just depends on the person, but sometimes two-strokes can be safer just because they're lighter, slower, this and that. But sometimes they could be more dangerous because you got to override them to go fast. Yeah. And so again, it just depends on the rider. What track he's riding, what he's ridden in the past. What he likes to ride. But I wouldn't favor either one of them unless I was racing.
Okay.
If I'm racing, okay, I'm going four-stroke 100%.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like you had a wonderful time. So, in this last week, I did go into social media a little bit, and I saw Jet Lawrence on social media. And he was talking about how the fans have sort of made him into a bit of a villain, because you know how there's the heroes and the villains.
Yeah.
And because he's been so hyper dominant in Supercross and in outdoor motocross, he's kind of made himself into his own villain.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the hero and the villain side?
I guess you need both there. Him being a villain, I don't know. I don't know about being a villain. It just maybe everybody's envious. You know, they don't want. I'd say it's more of enviness, not a villain, because a villain would be like a Vince Freeze. A villain would be like a Barsha, or somebody that's actually hitting people, knocking people over, doing stuff they shouldn't do. But when someone just wins and dominates in a very, very fashionable way, meaning stylish, clean, smooth, this and that, how can you be a villain? That's just enviness to me. But that could be good for him for popularity.
Okay.
Because most people are going to follow a villain more than a hero. So it's again, because they want to hear what that person has to say. Even though they have a bunch of bad shit to say about the guy, they're so intrigued by him, right? Okay. They're intrigued by him. So, I don't agree with him being a villain, but I can see where people are a little bit put off maybe by his brashness. Yeah,
I was gonna say it was more of his.
But his brashness. But again, it's not bragging if you're backing it up.
True.
It's not talking shit if you're backing it up, and he backs it up. So you didn't go tell Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and all these other guys that were dominant and tell them not to be cocky. You have to be cocky. You have to be cocky to be that good. You have to be cocky to know you can win. You have to be cocky to dominate. Yeah. So that's where, I feel that he should be. Again, same thing with Deegan. They could say the same thing with him as he's being very brash and this and that. But again, it's called confidence, trust. And I'd much rather have trust and confidence in myself than be fit all day long, right? Okay. Or just be fast. Yeah, I'm fast. Okay, but you can't put it together in consistent races. You can't put it together every weekend. You can't put it together at the races. You're fast, yes, but why are you still getting fifth? You're fit, yeah, but why are you still finishing 30 seconds behind? When that guy that isn't as fast as you, isn't as fit as you, let's say even a Cooper Webb. Okay. He's not the fastest dude on the track, and I'll guarantee on number he's not the fittest dude on the track. But right here, he's probably one of the strongest guys on the track. Yes. So that is going to carry over at the end of races or tough times or times in races where you're struggling a little bit, right? That's going to carry over because a guy that's fit, well, he's just not going to have the speed. The guy that has speed but can't carry it on is maybe going to doubt himself. Okay. Have more fear of failure. So then that gift that he has of being so fast isn't coming out. It's being suffocated. Right? It's being suffocated because you're tense, you're tight, you're hesitant. And so that speed or that fitness isn't going to be shown. But the guy that's confident isn't afraid of failure, so he's going to be loose, he's going to be flowing, he's going to be offensive, right? And so then that's where that speed will come out at the end, like you see Cooper.
So when you were in racing, speaking of heroes and villains, what did you think of yourself? Did you think of yourself as a villain or a hero?
I would say a hero. Okay. To the fans, a hero. All right. Just because of some of the things that I did. I guess the intensity that I put into it. You knew every race that I was going to give 100. You knew every race that there could be some wild stuff in it. You knew I would never quit. Now the racers may be more of a villain just because I didn't give a shit about them. And I didn't care who I hit. I don't care who I made mad. I don't care. I didn't care about anybody, right? Yeah. So kind of both. I'd say fans, hero, racers, maybe a little bit of a villain.
So more of a, I would say crossbred. More of a Justin Barsha type.
Yeah, maybe no, because I never took anybody out like that. You know what I mean? I never took anybody out. I raced rough. I bumped
Robin's
this
racing
and that, but I never T-boned anybody, and I never took any. I only took one person out intentionally, and that's after he hit me. and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
it. So I people can say that I hit him and I took him at this and that, but I never did it on purpose. It was just us meeting, or I passed you and that pass was aggressive, or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah.
So
It was what it was.
it was what it was. Yeah. So like a was it like a hermaphrodite, right? It's like
Yeah.
in the middle there.
Yeah. It does what it does.
It does what it does. It can do many things, but it does what it does.
It's interesting on the heroes and villains thing because you look at Eli Tomac and he has a career of being a hero.
Yeah.
I mean, he really has done that. But you look at a guy like, for instance, Adam Cianciarulo. He's got a career of walking on both sides of that fence, hero and villain.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah, but again, those guys have never done anything to be called a villain. I guess if a villain would be like a Jason Lawrence.
okay,
You know what I mean? Just this brash, cocky, kind of sporadic rider, right? So you get more of a villain there. Or Eli's just been very consistent, doesn't say much, doesn't really have much of a personality, doesn't really have much of anything except just he rides a motorcycle like nobody else.
Let's go into that for a second because I want to talk about this personality and how important that is to the sport.
Yeah.
To some extent. We've just cleared Moto 2 here. So, Moto 2
Moto 2 is done. Okay, sorry
2 's
guys.
done.
We kept going for another lap. We didn't look at see the checker flag.
Exactly.
We kept going. Yeah.
I just looked. So
Okay, we're back again. Moto number 3 on this episode.
3 motos so far, and we're on our third and final one. And last moto, we were talking about heroes and villains. And because we talk solely about the sport, we talk about what the sport is about. There's a retail side of this sport that is on the consumer and the fan side, and how the fans are taking in with the riders and how they're kind of engaging with the riders. Because let's face it, without the fans, there is no race.
Yeah.
So the riders get kind of lumped into this whole hero and villain concept. In other words, there's some riders that are career heroes, like Eli Tomac. Then you've got some riders who play both sides of the fence, like Ken Roczen, who's sometimes a villain based on his attitude, sometimes a hero. You never know. And it's interesting to get your perspective on what heroes and villains really are in the sport versus what the fans may perceive them as being.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really thought about heroes and villains in the sport. Everybody's just racers to me. I guess a hero is somebody that has had a long, extensive career, have done something pretty phenomenal in their career.
Yeah.
A villain, I guess, would it have to be just the way that someone rides. Someone that's, I guess the biggest villain you could find is Vince Freeze.
Okay.
That'd be the really only villain that I could come up with, so to speak, that could be really called that, because I don't really know anybody. I guess Barsha too, because he's done some, outlandish takeouts. But other than that, I wouldn't say
Jason Anderson.
Yeah,
He's been villainish at times.
yeah, but he's still so soft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just a little teddy bear type of thing. And so a villain to me is somebody that is just rah. Doesn't give a shit about you. Doesn't give a shit about the fans. Doesn't give a shit about anything except just racing motorcycle.
Would you
Right.
consider Dirty Phil Nicoletti as being a bit of a villain? Filthy Phil?
Nah, I mean, again, I'm going off how people ride. If we
Okay.
go off how people ride, I don't really see anybody villainish except maybe like a Barsha and a Vince Freeze.
Okay.
Right? Now, the way people talk and the way they hold themselves and the way they, express themselves, well, then you got hero ways and villain ways,
Yeah.
And so, you got the Eli's, you got the Coopers, stuff like that. Heroes, the villains would be more like, again, I guess a Jason Anderson, a Barsha, a few people that way. Just that, even Deegan now could be more of a villain, just because they got this little bit of a FU attitude, right? And that's what it is. But we need both of those. We need personality. That's the biggest thing. That's where the sport is losing right now and leaving right now, is that we don't have personality in it. Seeing when the Carmichael era came, Carmichael has zero personality. So it's like everybody just thought that you just had to be this closed mouth, super trainer, super serious person, which everybody wants to pretend they are, but they're not.
Yeah.
Right? But everybody has to have this zip lips type of thing. And so now that's kind of fed down, and like you got the Cooper, you got the Eli's, you have the the Ken Roxons. You have all these guys, and they're really not really that interesting of people when they're racing. Maybe off the track, completely different. And back home, whatever. But at the races, this and that, interviews, they're not that much of interesting people. But when I go back and watch interviews of myself, I'm like, holy shit, I was boring. But I think it's just, it's that you're so locked into being this energy, so locked into being this persona, every week, every day, all the time, that you don't have time to be outlandish. You don't have time to be flamboyant. You don't have time to almost create a personality, because you're just turned into kind of almost like a robot.
When did you get yours?
What?
Your personality?
Probably when I stopped racing.
Okay.
But I go watching interviews. It's like, I guess I always had personality, but it was very kind of mundane, very bland. You know what I mean? Just
because I don't see you as a person without a personality.
If you go back and listen to interviews and stuff like that, then yeah, especially when you're racing, because you're just this locked in zone. And again, that's what I see. It's almost like everybody goes to this state of, not a meditative state, but a little bit of a meditative state where you kind of have to zone out a little bit. And that's where, just like this, when I raced in Italy, everything just disappeared.
Okay.
I was back locked into that place where the only thing that existed was this turn, that bump, that rock, that shift, that clutch, that brake, that whoa, holy shit type of thing. And that's what existed. Not a bunch of other stuff like we talked before. The mind can't keep up with how fast motocross is happening. And if you're doing something so extraordinary like you are on a motocross, and then your mind is working, well, yeah, you might notice it, but you're not going to get attached to it, because you're going to notice that, I can't wait to have that hamburger, but then that rock. You know what I mean? But if I'm walking down the street, I can't wait to have that hamburger. Yeah, then I'm going to have ketchup on it. I'm going to put pickles on it. And this and down, do I want that or don't? Because there's nothing taking your attention away. So that's why motocross is so addicting to a lot of people and older people, is because it can get you away from that mundane, wandering, almost like beating you down mind, right?
Yeah.
And we all have it. So these things can almost be little interruptions. And I didn't notice it until, I did race a little bit, and being in that zone is that's what I missed. I missed not so much the riding or anything like that, but just the place it puts me in.
The turning off.
Yeah, just the place it puts me in. It just puts me in this.
Yeah.
Like everything goes silent. Everything is very soft. Everything slows down.
Okay.
There's no, there's like no panic. There's no stress. It's the mind kind of almost slows down a little bit too. It's for me, it's a very comforting place to be.
Okay.
And, but, so that's what the sport needs, but it blocks, the sport blocks it because you can't cuss, which, okay, yeah, I can't cuss, but hey, it is what it is, let it out. I mean, I think even the politicians are cussing now. And that, you can't rub, you can't bump, you get fined. You can't sell any merchandise at the races, which is just ridiculous. You can't say different things, be different things, act different things, look different things, because all these so-called sponsors want you to be this cookie cutter person, but you're not standing out. That's where people going wrong. It's like, if you want your product to be sold, to be looked at, you need somebody that stands out, not someone that just gets hidden by everybody else that's acting and looking the same, right? And so that's, where I see it's a big miss in motocross, is that we need to promote the riders more of who they are, type of thing. And that's being able to get them more, merchandise sales, being able to give them free will to speak their minds when they're interviewing and talking, and also give them the free will to look what they want to look, I guess.
So when you look back on the careers of motocross racers, and if I asked you, for instance, who were the heroes of yesteryear? Who would you look up and go, that guy was a freaking hero?
My first hero was Brock Glover.
Okay.
Just because, again, he had this cool image. He was very clean. Everything was precise, good riding style, clean. Getting a champion many times over. So Brock, Ron Lachine was another big one, just because of the way he rode. He's just so smooth and effortlessly. Of course, like Rick Johnson. I was a big fan. Unfortunately, I raced against him a lot. Was Stefan Everts.
Okay.
just the way he rode. Stuff like that. But back in the day, everybody was my hero, so to speak.
What
I
did
just
you- what would you
had a
con-
few ones that stood out. But again, it wasn't long before I was racing them.
Yeah.
I started BAM, and then 4 years later, I'm racing these guys.
What would you consider Jeremy back in the day?
He's a competitor. He was a friend that turned into a competitor.
Okay.
And then that's kind of a bit. Of course, a little bit of enviness, from somebody being so dominant that you used to be able to beat, and his career going that way, my career going the other way a little bit. So again, it's only natural to be a little bit envious of somebody like that. But now that it's all said and done, wrapped up and put away, you just have all the respect in the world for what somebody's done.
Yeah.
And I tell him that all the time. Each time we see him, I just say, dude, I just got to tell you the respect that I have of what you've done, this and that. So, yeah.
I'm looking at, like, for instance, do you have dirty riders back in the day that you would look back
I'd
and
say,
go,
yeah,
that guy
Emig was probably one of the dirtiest riders.
Okay.
Emig was. He'd cut your ass off. He'd cut over you on jumps. He took me out in practice at Glen Helen one time, and that wasn't a good thing in his day. Mike LaRocco was another one that would just clean you out if you bumped him or if you wouldn't get out of his way. I was a rough racer too. But nobody, I guess everybody everybody held their own and nailed you down too. So, nowadays it's like nobody does anything back. Back in my day, if Vince Freeze was in my day, he'd be dead. He'd be dead. We'd cut his bike in half, or I'd show up at his fucking house.
Really?
And again, Vince is a good guy. I
Yeah.
like Vince. I hang out with Vince. I even work with Vince. I trained him when he was just coming into Supercross. You know, all the starts he gets. Well, I taught him how to do all these different things, but I just don't condone his way of riding. I really don't. And that's a guy, like you say, you get him off the track, it's like, wow, it's a good dude. You get him on the track, you're like, who is this guy? But that just wouldn't fly in my day. No way.
Okay.
I mean, if I was Dean Wilson, it'd be the next race that Vince is supposed to be going to, be like, where's Vince? I say, yeah, where is Vince? Where is Vince? Yeah. It's hard to race with broken legs, man.
Very difficult.
Very difficult to get broken legs by some masked man at night that popped around your bushes. Yeah.
Very difficult.
Yeah. Last time I checked.
I find it kind of interesting that even in the yesteryear, when we didn't have the big marketing and there wasn't as much production behind the sport, there was still that hero and villain.
Yeah.
There was still those people, even inside the riders, there was still that bit of the hero and the villain, and it's carried on to this day. It's part of
everybody can take, they maybe see it a little bit different than I do. I just don't see these guys as being any more than just racers, probably because I've done it. You know what I mean? And maybe back when I looked in the 80s and stuff like that, 90s, looking up at the top guys, and maybe there was more kind of hero-villain thing because they were more of a spectacle.
Yeah.
But now these guys, they're on the level that I was on, so you don't look at them any different way, and nobody is kind of, I would say, hero-wise, people are doing things like, Eli and Cooper Webb riding the Donations this year.
Yeah.
That was very hero status.
Yes.
Very hero status, what Dean Wilson what Vince Freeze did to Dean Wilson again, well, that's very villainish.
Yes.
Right? And so that's the only way I can look at that.
Okay. That's fair. And guess what? We just cleared Moto 3.
I like it. Moto 3 done.
Moto 3 in the bag. So
Finito.
next week, let's talk a little bit more about the technique of European riders versus the technique of American riders, and what is the difference?
Okay.
Is that a track issue? Is that a training issue? Is that a bike issue, a setup issue, or just a perspective issue?
Perfect. Yeah, I can break that down very easily. So make sure you tune in to Big 49 Radio with Ryan Hughes next Wednesday.